tonight we have, as you heard, a couple of technical difficulties, but we're going to roll right on through those. We have Bob and Sally Hatfield joining us this evening. Sally is the president of the Bartow Genealogical Society. Bob is a former president. They're here this evening to talk to us about it. And they're great people to talk about local genealogy too. They've been working in Bartow County for about 5 years on local genealogy. They're members of the Bartow Genealogical Society, the Cobb Genealogical Society, Georgia Genealogical Society, KYOWVA Historical and Genealogical Society, Wayne County, West Virginia Historical Society, along many others. Bob has a special interest in Polish genealogy, and Bob and Sally have a love of wandering through local cemeteries, finding new bits of genealogical history and trivia. So with that, I'm going to let Sarah turn it over to the two of them, and we're going to ask that everyone hold your questions until the end, and we're going to give them all then there. So you can put them in the chat and we'll ask them at the end. Thank you so much.
There you go. You guys are good to go.
We're on? Okay. Hi, I'm Bob Hatfield, Robert Hatfield, and we're with the Bartow County Genealogical Society. It began in January of 1992. The goals of our society is to bring about an interest in genealogy and local history. We help searching for the family records and information and sharing of family information. And hopefully to be able to get people to teach others how to use genealogy to learn about their family history. This is the front of our building at 101 North Irwin Street. If you're familiar with Church Street, it'd be slightly to the north, and then Irwin Street's here in front of us. This is not the door you would go in, though. It's over to the south side. We have a parking lot over there, and here's our entrance to our part of it. We are part of the Art Council. I'm one of the board members to the Art Council here in Bartow County. We have our hours are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We can make arrangements by telephone as to, hopefully we can get together some other time. This is our president, Sally Hatfield. We have 2 computers in this portion of the office, a copy machine, and in the back there you see a microfilm reader. We have microfilms of various newspapers. This is me at one of the computers. And in behind me, you see some of our files that we have. And there's another look at the office here. Also have various maps and items like that. Those shelves, we split this up so you can see the upper portion, which would be to the left. This is all different counties in Georgia. Not all 159 of them. Sorry, there's just not enough room, but a lot of them that are near us. To the right is also more of those counties, the records, publications that they put out, histories of them. Another shelf, slightly more to its to the right of number 1. The upper part there is to your left. This is more county histories. The lower section is devoted to Georgia in general, different publications coming out. We also have a section of family histories that people have donated to us, possibly as many as about 30, 35 of them altogether, plus some miscellaneous files there on the right-hand side down below. Our shelf number 4, to the left, you see the upper part of it is DAR magazines. That's Daughters of the American Revolution. Also, the Patriot books. Perhaps somebody in your family is part of that. When we say Patriot books, we're meaning more than just the soldiers who served in the Revolutionary War. It includes people who donated money, food, money, horses, grain, things like this. They could be on those lists also. Also to the right there, you see magazines from the SAR, that's the Sons of the American Revolution. By the way, the SAR is older than the DAR. The SAR is located, their home office is in Lexington, Kentucky. The home office of the DAR is in Washington, D.C. And we have some miscellaneous books there, different wars, War of 1812, some other war information, general information. We also have quarterlies and books dealing with other counties nearby or states nearby. Alabama, Arkansas, we have some Tennessee, Maryland. All depends on who we have donating back and forth to different organizations as to what we have on hand. We also have a second room to our office, and this is mostly strictly items dealing with Bartow County, Hugh Harley, a little bit on Emerson, and the brown doors there that you can just barely see, that's to our restroom. And a close-up of the information we have. We try to keep track of what we have on hand by topics, by names, by different categories. Over there to the right-hand side, you see obituaries that we have obtained from some of the funeral homes in the area, Owens and others. Also, too, just across from those folders, you see boxes of obituaries up above. There's almost 100% strictly Bartow County. The file cabinets underneath are family information, state information, information about cities, marriages, wills. A close-up of that. Again, to the left is those obituaries. To the right are our 2 filing cabinets with a variety of information. Some of it, by the way, is unique items that we only have. We have an older computer. It can be used, but very seldom is used. And of course, our office supplies and another printer that we have available. We have handouts that we can give to people dealing with Kingston, for instance. Michelle Obama's ancestors came from Kingston, Georgia. And looking from that room back into the main room is what you see here. We also have printed out 2 heritage books, one in 1995, the second in 1998. These are stories that were given to the Genealogical Society, families in the Bartow area. We do have these available for purchase. A lot of good information in them. We have a quarterly comes out each quarterly. We just had one come out every 3 months. It's done by our editor, Fran Weatherby, who is a native of Kingston, by the way. And a lot of information on Bartow area. And we try to put in other items of interest to that magazine also. We have a small meeting room that we could use, hasn't been used in a while because of COVID. We have a larger room that we set up for our meetings. By the way, we're going to have a meeting on this coming Sunday, May 2nd, starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We do ask the people who do come wear a mask.
This is Sally Hatfield. Where do you start? Well, you always start with yourself or your parents or aunts and uncles or your grandparents. Those are the people you know the most information about. You might have some of their records, got their names, dates, and places. The places would be where they lived, where they were born, where they died. Talk to your relatives, get stories and information. Our genealogy, how to begin. There are free sites to use. There are tricks of research, always to do, and most of all, share with the family. Keep records of where you found your information. Otherwise, you know that cousin's going to say, that's not right. And you say, it is right. I got it from this book or this census or this person. And you can find it that way. You can tell them that that information that you have is right. This is a family data sheet. This one is from and I always forget this.
Ancestry.
It's from Ancestry. There's other ones you can get for free. I got more further along. But you see why I say that you need the names, the birth dates, the marriage dates and places. These are the dates. These are the places. You put the name right up at the top, and and the date they died and where the places. The same here with the women. It's always good to have their maiden names, because then you're going to be able to go to explore that family too. Same thing there. You're going to need the birth, death, and it also has room in case they have more than one spouse. Here's for the children. Same thing there. And use the spouse's name right there. So these are very nice and to have.
Use a pencil.
Oh, always use a pencil. He's right. Please always use a pencil. Be prepared. Find out where you're going to go. If you want to go to the National Archives, or you want to go to a library, or if you want to go to a relative's house. Know the hours, parking, what you can take and what you cannot. Have all that you need. There's nothing worse than feeling silly because you forgot that date or that person's last name or what you needed, the town they came from. Make sure you have a camera, paper and pencil. Ask if you can bring your telephone to take pictures. Always use a pencil and use loose paper. And if you call ahead of time, you're going to find out their do's and don'ts, their restrictions. I mean, we've been to some that you can't even wear a zip-up jacket because they're afraid somebody's going to stick a book under their arm and zip their jacket up and walk out with it. I mean, they seem silly, but it's obviously happened. These are a few of the genealogy sites. I'll go real quick, but Ancestry is a pay one. It's very good. We have it and we enjoy it. Closer here. Find a Grave is a free one. You can get lots of information from Find a Grave. You can sometimes even get pictures of their faces or their stones. Not all of the people will be on it. Sometimes you're only going to get their spouse. Sometimes you'll get their spouse, the parents. Sometimes you'll get their siblings or their children. It can be really helpful. Family Search is a really good one to start with. It's free. They do ask your name and they do ask how old you are, only because they don't want children in it. They are going to ask for you to make up a password and so on to get into it. US GenWeb is one here that the museum belongs to, and it's free. It's very good, but please realize that some sites are maintained very well. Other sites haven't been looked at for years. So it's all done by volunteers. And so it's just going to depend on how much time that volunteer has to focus on this topic. There's the National Archives is free. Oops. DAR, you can just put a name in and you'll find out whether or not they're part of the DIR, where somebody's already filed and you can tack onto it. I'm going to go ahead and flip because I don't know too much about that one. Family Tree Maker is a program you can buy. You start adding your names. Everything, it's going to start out blank, so you got to put everything in it. There are other programs online that you can purchase as well. When we bought ours, it was around $35. So we've had a few years, so you can expect it have gone up. But you can buy it right online. You can get just a disc, CD, or you can get it zapped right into your computer and buy a CD as well, because I usually do that for backup. It is free. The only thing you have to be aware of is that others can come on there and they can edit what you put in. Or my father has 2 brothers and a sister. The last time I checked, he had a new brother. All my family's from either Michigan or Ohio. And all of a sudden, this brother's from Idaho. And I'm thinking, where did he come from and who gave him to me? But I contacted the person and asked that they remove it. These are some other programs you can find. Please check into it. Just go online and ask for some of the programs. Ancestry is $29 a month. No. Yeah, a month. And $99 for 6 months. Ours is about to be renewed, but we've had it for years. It's $189 for a year. Others down here have free trials. They're very nice for free trials. Just remember that if it's a 1-week free trial, then if you don't stop it before that week's up, they're going to put it right on your charge card because they're going to ask for it. They're going to ask for all your information and a credit card number. That's the only thing bad about free trials. You got to remember to get off of it or you're going to get charged for it. Now this is Family Search. This is the search you go into, familysearch.org, and hit the search page and you come up with this. Then again, you've got to have information to feed in it to get the right person. My mother's name was Shirley Smith. If I just put Shirley Smith in there, do you imagine how many thousands of people I would get? I mean, you do, you get thousands. So we got to narrow it down. A birthplace, a year to and from. If you're not sure what it is, then maybe you're going to do, like with my mom, I would do maybe 1921 to 1925. And then I would put in a state or a location. I go ahead and search with that. If I'm not getting what I want, I can go back in, edit the search, and you can put in if you know their father, if you know their mother, if you know their spouse, if you know children, to narrow that search down so you can find that person easier. But like I said, you've got to have information to start with. That's why we always tell you to start with yourself, aunts and uncles, different people, especially if they were born 1940 or before. Here's a group sheet from Family Tree Maker. It's got my grandfather on it, my grandmother, my mom and her sister. These two are two babies that were stillborn, but they're still part of the family. We enjoy Family Tree Maker, but we've had it for years. You can go in and you can put notes about the people. You can always put previous spouses. Grandpa was married before. His wife and daughter died in a house fire, but they are previous marriage. Over here, Grandma was married before. Her husband died in the 1919 flu epidemic that hit the area that they lived in. And, but her two children are right there. These are some report sheets you can get. This is my fourth great-grandfather and his father, and then their parents and beyond, his mother, their parents and beyond. Then it's got him, Ard Hoyt, and his wife, Esther, and their children, which my connection to him would be his oldest daughter, Sarah, married one of my Ellises. Here's another pedigree chart. It's got
My family.
yeah, Bob's family. These pictures that you see in there, you put them in yourself. You find them, you put them in. If we don't have pictures, then quite often I'll put a headstone. Some people think that's yuck, but I don't. It's theirs. Why not? Over here is another way of a chart that you can do. This is Bob's family again. Over here on his mother's side, it doesn't go very far because his grandparents on his mother's side, one came from Russia and the other came from Lithuania. And we just don't have any more information. We've got the boats they came over on and a lot of information since then. But going back, we just don't have it. We didn't think to ask. Here's a free sheet that you can get from Mid-Continent Library. It's a family sheet, just like the other one was, with the husband, wife, and their children.
So, cemetery walking, this is something that both of us enjoy doing. We've been to several of them out in Iowa, Oklahoma, other places, West Virginia. But if you're going to be going to a cemetery, first of all, know where you're going. Take a camera, include some water. Now the water, there's two things here. You know, you want to have a drink. Also too, if you want to use the water to souse the stone so you can read it better. Do not use anything to rub, except the very lightest touch, because some stones are made of material that'll deteriorate very easy. Walking stick, and then one of the reasons you want to have a walking stick with you is if you're going to go someplace where there's other critters that could be around, you know, the stick helps make sure that the area is clear. And also too, older cemeteries have got lots of holes in them, so you got to check for that. If there is a office, a sexton's office, or some other type of office, maintenance office, you know, get directions as to where in the world is the tombstone located that you want. We made the mistake one time of going to Indiana and going to a cemetery, and all we had was the name of the person we were looking for, Charles Ellis. So we went to the sexton's office, and the first thing they asked us is, what year did he die? We didn't know. So we went back to the in-town library, and just by coincidence, got a hold of somebody who knew the family and found out that about 20 feet away from where the sexton's maintenance office was where Charles Ellis and his wife were buried. If we didn't know where they were, we would have spent forever because it was huge. Then when you do find the person you're looking for, make sure you look around because there could be other relatives that are close by. This is Hatfield Cemetery. There's a couple of them, Hatfield Cemetery. This particular one is in West Virginia, Cabell County, West Virginia. And 4 generations of my family are buried at this cemetery. Find a Grave is a free site at present time. It's currently owned by Ancestry, so who knows what the future might be. But they have names and dates and places. Sometimes the parents' names are included in the description of the person you're looking for. It's not going to be complete because it's all depends on what people were able to put into Find a Grave. But there could be a lot of information there. This is a huge cemetery, by the way, Hatfield Cemetery, huge cemetery.
Here's a couple Find a Graves. These are older people, and it's fun. Here it tells about William Lewis Venable, which is from this area. It gives a little bio about him. It gives his parents, his spouse, his siblings, and a couple of his children. Over here is one I found recently. And he is a Revolutionary War soldier. And there's a stone, and this is a little plaque for him. It's got his birth and death dates, just as this one has. A little story about him, his parents, his wife, his siblings, and his half-siblings, as well as his children. They don't always have all the children. They don't always have all the siblings. Sometimes they don't even have both the parents. And so it's whatever information people give. Here's a little family tree I thought was cute. What I've done is I've just gone online and I just say free genealogy forms. And you get a slew of them. Sometimes you click on them and they're not free. Sometimes you click on them and they got so many you don't know which ones you want. But here's one that's really cute. Here's another one that I like too. The reason I like this one is it says grandmother, father, grandfather, all that on it. This one is just got the spaces, but it's still kind of cute because it's got the tree. And here's one for children. There's me and dad and mom and grandparents and great grandparents. It doesn't go real far for the kids, but maybe it'll get them a little interested.
The census began in 1790. The early censuses only had the name of the head of the household. Most of the time it would be a man's name. Then beginning in 1850, it began to change so that the names of all the individuals at a particular household would be included. Servants, farmer workers, boarders would be included. Why do we have a census? Oh, he added this. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, here's a special census. It was done in 1845. It's a third great grandfather. It's a state census, so not all all states are gonna have censuses in 1845. This is one of those with just the check marks. So all it's got is Orrin's name and check marks. I chose this other one beside them. It's a 1860 census because they had a problem with the last name. Okay, when these censuses are taken, you can see over here on this first one, the writing is sometimes good and sometimes it's very bad and sometimes it's really light. One time with Orrin over here, they had it down as CWR Elmer because the writing, it was so faint that they're just writing down what they see. It's the same thing they did over here with this Van Duzen, and it's actually Van Dyne. But they have to go ahead and they carry it throughout because that is what they see. But they've got the correction right here. Now this is a story as well as a census. Okay, this is the 1910 census. And I'm going to focus on my grandmother. She's in the census with her grandparents, which would be my second great grandparents. She's the first one right on top. And here it would be with Lorenzo Porter, Ida Porter, and then they have my grandmother down as Neva Porter, and she's 6 years old. Nope, 9, I'm sorry. Okay, now's when the story comes in. My grandmother's name was Geneva Mildred Hagedorn. So they got it wrong. She's Geneva Hagedorn, not Neva Porter. This is the only census, because she was born in 1900, this is the only census that would have had her full birth name on it. Because she married at 16, so that when the 1920 census came out, she was already a Kesey. And the other thing, when you look at a census, look around. Oops, sorry. Look around, because you're going to see possibly other relatives on this census. This is an awe occasion and for me, because right below Lorenzo Porters and Ida Porters and Neva Porters are the Perrins. Her mother's second husband was Fred Perrin. So her mother lives in the house next door with her new family. But at least her daughter's right next door living with her grandparents.
So why do we have a census? Well, it's because it's in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2 calls for an actual enumeration to be taken. That's the census. It's every 10 years, beginning in 1790. It's called a population census. And not every census that is out there is complete. There's been fires, there's been water damage, neglect. I don't want this piece of paper, I'll throw it away kind of attitude. It all depends on what happened to it. Of course, the most common one that everybody hears about is the 1890 population census. Very little of it was ever saved. Less than 6,000 names altogether. Well, the fire, and actually was water caused more damage to it than the fire. There are also some other federal censuses that were taken. 1857, Minnesota territory. Got to remember that Minnesota didn't become a state until 1858. 1880, Native Americans, they were not taxed. So there's some other ones there. Also, they did a kind of a strange one. 1885, the federal government said that it would help pay for the census if the state or territory would pick up the rest of the cost. Well, only 5 of them took it up. Colorado, the Dakota Territory, that's North and South Dakota, Florida, Nebraska, and New Mexico territories. And in 1907, there was a partial one for Oklahoma. Some dates that really stand out. 1830 is the very first time they used printed government forms. Everything else was done by hand before 1830. 1880 is the very first one that street addresses will be on the census. Of course, not everybody had a street address in 1880, so, but it's there. 1890, Union veterans and widows. From about halfway through Kentucky onward is been saved. There are a few Confederates that can be found on there. Then 1900 onward, 1910, 20, 30, 40, the enumeration district is on a separate roll. If you wanted to know where was this particular part located in St. Detroit, Michigan, or anywhere, you could find out through these enumeration districts. That's the area, the enumerator, the census taker would cover over a given amount of time. By the way, the Census Bureau was not even created until 1902. And the National Archives that Sally commented about earlier, that didn't become an entity until 1934. If you go to the National Archives in Washington, D.C., you see that nice, pretty building sitting there. It's only been there since 1934. Some other ones that you can look at, census schedules, agricultural. There's also the famous one of 1880. This is the only ones like this. The defective, dependent, and delinquent. It's a weird one to look at. There's also mining and fisheries, industrial ones. There's manufacturers. There are mortality ones, 1850 to 1880. If somebody died within the year up to the date of the population census, they could be on the mortality census. There's separate slave census for 1850 and 1860. Also, 1840, veterans. What kind of veterans are we talking about? The few revolutionary veterans are still living by 1840. The veterans of the War of 1812, also their spouses could be on there. There are tribal censuses, school censuses. Military people have been on the census since 1900, along with civilians who work for them when they're overseas. So there are various school, church censuses that you can hopefully find. There are state-sponsored censuses. And just like that one from 1845 for Michigan, again, all you see is the name of the head of the household and then check marks. Some of them are good and some of them are not that great, but they are out there. They can be of great help. So make sure you look for them. Some of them have horrible handwriting. By the way, the 1950 census will be coming out April of 2022. Here in the United States, we have a 72-year hold on privacy reasons. So that's why the 1950 does not come out until April of 2022. Canada, by the way, is 90 years. The United Kingdom, 100 years. So it depends on where you're looking as to what kind of a census is available. These are descriptions of what you can find in each of those censuses. This is put out by the Midwest Genealogy Center. By the way, that's in Indianapolis, no, excuse me, Independence, Missouri. They have a lot of free information, and this is one of them that they put out. What kind of information can I find on the population census for a given year, whether it's 1790 or 1940? Skip one. Yep. Some basic genealogical references. I've just picked these kind of a random. We have all four of them, by the way. All four of these do focus on the information that you be looking for here in the United States. One that I like particularly, the other people not that happy about it because it's written by a lawyer. The Val B. Greenwood one, the Researcher's Guide to American Genealogy. But it came out in 2017. Probably the most up-to-date one there is out there. And the others are also very good too. There's nothing wrong with a basic information book because not everything is online. Again, not everything is online.
Bob, do you remember the author of the African American books that are out there? Sorry, I'm catching him offhand here.
Not at this point.
Okay, Maybe he'll remember before we're done.
Genealogy. What are we talking about here? It's an effort made by you to discover family relationships and history. It will make you more aware of why, how, when, and where your ancestors came to America and survived. Your previous generations helped make this great nation the United States of America. Show your pride by finding out more about them and their struggles. Genealogy can help that happen. It begins with you. Do it now. Tomorrow, definitely going to be too late.
I took a class with a lady once who said, I'm just accumulating information. I have all this stuff that I got from my relative, but I'm accumulating information. And do you know, during that 8-week course, that's all she did was accumulate information so she could go home and stack it up next to the boxes that she has from her relative? That's not going to work. If you're really interested in genealogy, dig into it. And this is our information. It's kind of all in there. But on the left is our email site. So you can email us. Now up at the top on the right, we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 3 at 101 North Irwin Street. On Mondays, Bob and I are there. We're beginner and general genealogy people. On Wednesday, Mike's there as a rule, and he is Bartow County definitely. And on Friday is Fran and Jan, and they both are researchers. Oh my, I admire what they do. I really do. What they can do for other people is amazing. And they aren't even charging the $200 an hour like the professionals do. All we ask for is just a small donation of whatever. Anyway, our meetings are the second Sunday of each month, unless it's a holiday. It's at 2 p.m. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 993, Cartersville, 30121. Our phone number, oh, I'm sorry, 120. Ours is 121. Phone number 770-606-0706. If you want to join us for $20, for that $20, you'll get a discount in copying at our copy machines. The Heritage books you purchase at a discount, and you'll get the quarterlies 4 times a year for free. That about sums it up. Alrighty.
If there are any questions, we'll try to answer them.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're going to send our questions through to Lauren, and she's going to ask those for us. So we've had a couple come through in the chat, and I think Lauren's about to relay
All right.
those to
So we have our first question here from Shanna. She's one of our employees here at the museum, and she asked, how do you feel about English records that go back to the 1500s? Do you feel that those are trustworthy records, or those things that you can rely on?
I would give all of them 2 grains of salt. You have to remember, when was the material written? The reason I say that is, if it was written, say, in 1930, and they're talking about something that happened in the 1500s, where are they getting their information from? If it's just guesswork, then you know what you got, guesswork. That's what I would say about it.
We have a member. His name is Richard Green. His family goes back to England, and he could probably answer that question 10 times better than we could. He's usually there on Wednesday with Mike. They did pay a professional genealogist to do work over in England, but they have a huge family, hundreds of people that they take donations from to pay for that. And a lot of the information, like I just did some relatives today, and I can Google a lot of information because they supposedly have a castle and they were barons and they were this and they were that. I write it all down, copy it all out, read it all over, and in our program, we have what we can put down as notes. In the notes in our program, Family Tree Maker, I am able to write down, this could be the birth date or it could be this. This could be the birth town or it could be this. This is where I would write down the things I'm not sure about. Now, when I go back up to the actual part, I'm going to make a decision and put information out there. If I'm not sure on it, I'll still put that other information down in the notes.
You have to remember, anytime somebody records information, you have to think about who's doing the recording, what access do they have to the original information if it was out there, and how did they interpret it. Anything else? Any other question?
So we have another question, and it's asking if you could talk more about how to use the census to maybe help find family homes or other important family info.
Okay. Well, again, the actual addresses didn't start until the 1880 census. So anything prior to the 1880 census is, just somebody's farm, somebody's home, located who knows where. You would have to take a wild guess as to where it is. Now, if you know the city, the county, you could probably narrow it down a little bit. Now, again, starting in 1880, the larger cities started having addresses because it was, just too hard to figure out where somebody was. So, Detroit, Michigan, Baltimore, Maryland, Atlanta, Georgia, places like this, there could be some addresses.
Also too, if you go to the county's Genealogical Society, they sometimes have books on who owned property when. When we went to Wabash, Indiana, I've got a third great grandfather, I think he's two. Nope, he's two. But at any rate, I was able to find out where his farm was because they had it all sectioned off and everything. And that was through their, not only their library, but also their city genealogy society. So please don't look up, see if they have a genealogy society in the area that you're thinking about, you're wondering about. They might be able to help you with that. I've also found the same thing in Michigan. They did the same thing there.
Okay, so we have a follow-up to that first question about records from the 1500s and going back to England. So this one is also from Shanna, and as she said, it seems like the information that she has on her particular family, it comes from Castle Garden or Castle Clinton, which is the monument in New York that predated Ellis Island. So she says it's kind of hard to find information. Do you have any experience with that area or resources you could maybe give her about finding information from that?
Yeah, well, you have to remember, as far as what's called the passenger list, there are lists of passengers that came in starting in 1820. Prior to 1820, there's a lot of problems finding a specific individual unless they were well known and it's recorded in a newspaper or somewhere else as they arrived prior to 1820. Then starting in 1820, it was a regulation that the master or captain of the ship had to leave a list of all the people that were on that ship, including the sailors, crew. That's very helpful. There are some that are missing because it did take time for people to get into the habit of recording things. But definitely, I would say by 1825, you can find passenger lists. By the way, when I say an immigration port, don't get confused about the word port, because you do not need water for an airport. You do not need water for an immigration port in Columbus, New Mexico. There isn't any. So don't ever think of the word port. You got to have water. You got to have a ship. There's other ways of finding people on those passenger lists. And Castle Garden, Fort Clinton is also called Fort Clinton. There is information about that out there.
And remember too, that these people are writing information down from a person telling them that information. If the person that's talking to them is a heavy accent, I mean, Bob had 3 uncles that came through. Each one of them, their last name was Podvoisky, and each one of the last names were spelled different because only one of those brothers could actually read and write. The other 2, they just kind of said it, and whatever the person wrote down, they wrote down. So that can be true of also the places where they came from.
There are also some other ways to go about it. Some of the departure ports, when people went by ship, some of the departure ports like Bremen, Germany, Hamburg, Germany, they kept records, and some of that is available, not necessarily online. Sometimes you have to find a library that has books on it and actually looks things up. Oh my goodness gracious. Anybody else?
So I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. So that being said, Josh, we will turn it over back to you and to Sarah for any upcoming information.
Thank you lots.
Thank you.